Welcome in for our very first way too early redraft mock draft for fantasy football for 2024. It is a mouthful because we're doing it so dang early in the season. We're not even halfway through February yet. It's going to be Valentine's Day when you hear this. But Ty, the grind doesn't stop, and neither do we. We're bringing it to you. We're going to have some fun with it. If you think it's pointless, we don't care because we're just going to have some fun. Anything you want to add before we jump right on into this?
It is always a good time to do a mock draft.
Mm-hmm.
It is always a good time. It's always a fun time. And I've missed this. It feels like it's been a while since we've done a mock draft. So I'm excited to kick your butt in this draft because I beat you in fantasy playoffs. So it just means that I'm better than you. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of kicking butt real quick, I just want to get your thoughts on the Super Bowl. Happened on Sunday. Chiefs come back. 49ers apparently don't know the overtime rules. Shanahan says he does. Players say they don't. Ty, just one big takeaway from Super Bowl 58.
The perfect game. Can I it was a football diehard's dream in the first half because it was a lot of, punches thrown and maybe they weren't landing, but you could see the chess game starting to evolve a little bit. And then the second half hits, a lot more offense. Glad the refs stayed out of it. I'm glad they did. And everyone's like, oh, but the refs were, there's an obvious hold on Nick Bosa. And it's like, okay, you can't sit here and say you want the refs out of the way, but then complain about literally every single nitpick call. So, again, I think it was the perfect game. Overtime was not on my bingo card. I thought it was going to be one team kind of holding control of the game, and it really wasn't. It kind of went back and forth. So it was a great game. I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't really enjoy the halftime show so much, but that's just me. That's just me.
I will say my biggest takeaway is if Mahomes has the ball last, you've already lost. I don't understand how we can't figure this out. It's been how many years of this now? 3 Super Bowls, 7 years. I mean, if the dude's got the ball last, he is going to find a way to go down and score. And it happens every single time. But people aren't here to hear us talk about the Super Bowl. They're here for a mock draft. So let's get on into it. After a little bit of fancy camera work, we are all set up. We are doing a 12-team redraft, PPR mock draft. I do want to say before we get into it, the sleeper board's slightly wonky, all right? So you might see, if you're looking down low already, if you're on YouTube, you can see, hey, Josh Allen, pick 6, Patrick Mahomes, pick 8. We understand. It's just a little bit wonky, right? They got a dynasty mindset in right now. So we're going to work with the best that we got, but I still think that it's going to be very valuable to you guys because we'll talk about the other picks that are going, as we go through it. And so I don't think we should waste their time anymore. I think we jump right in. So Ty, why don't you kick it off? Obviously, I got pick 5. Ty's got pick 11. So let's get this thing rolling.
Oh,
little delay.
Yeah, a little warning from the browser. Thanks. I appreciate the heads up.
And so, like I said, it's the board's going to be a little bit off, right? So for the most part, I think that, we're going to be able to see how the board is going to look come, August. But there will be some players here and there who are just, not quite where they need to be. One of those guys, obviously, Christian McCaffrey. The first 4 players, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think in any given draft, those are probably going to be 4 of your probably first 6 picks. Mm-hmm. Maybe you throw in Bijan, maybe Breece Hall, one of those running back sticks in there. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey. So he's going to be the guy that I would go with here. But Ty, do you think there's any way he's not consensus 101 come this time next year?
I don't think so. I mean, it is the best running back on the best offense that is going to give him touches to the nth degree. So I don't really think there's really much to argue against Christian McCaffrey going as the 101 or falling outside of your top 3 at the bare minimum.
For sure. And like we said, it's going to be a little wonky, especially these first 2 rounds, but we wanted to go through it. We wanted you to see, what boards are starting to look like right now. We see 3 quarterbacks going, Allen, Mahomes, Stroud, but then the next 2 running backs, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, leaving Ty with, I don't think this is necessarily a hard decision for you, this first one, but I think coming back around, it might be a little more difficult.
Yeah, this one right away is just Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's probably the wide receiver that needs to be in that first group of 4.
Yes.
Besides Amon-Ra St. Brown. But Tyreek plus those 4 wide receivers, they are all probably going to go somewhere within your first 8 picks, right? You mix in McCaffrey, you mix in Breece Hall, maybe even top 7, top 6. So yes, it is a little weird, but Tyreek Hill just makes the most sense for what we're trying to do right now. In a redraft mindset, getting a top 3 wide receiver makes total sense to me.
For sure. All righty. We see AJ Brown and Chris Olave go off the clock, and then it comes right back to you. We see Garrett Wilson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Puka Nacua as those top 3 names on the list. Ty, what are your thoughts here?
It's really the 3 guys at the top of the board right now between Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua, and Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe Kyren Williams even.
Ooh, for sure. I think those Rams players are tough, right?
They are.
Kyren, because we know the upside. The upside's crazy, but it's been 1 year. Can they repeat? Cooper Kupp being back healthy, how does it look?
Yeah, I mean, between the Rams players, if there's one that I'm more interested than the other, I'm more interested in Kyren Williams than I am Puka Nacua, just because of the Cooper Kupp effect. But I also the Rams could literally pull a fast one, and then they, a Jonathan Brooks in the draft, or they take Trey Sermon, your Florida State guy, Trey Benson, Blake Corum, even we don't really know. So that kind of pushes me away from the Rams. So then that gets to Garrett Wilson and Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't mind Garrett Wilson. My only concern is just Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be healthy by the start of the year, but I call it a lack of background. I don't really know how an Achilles affects a quarterback like we know how it affects our running back and a wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And I know it's a very different position, so maybe there really isn't any kind of setback. But because I just don't know at this moment, I'm going to go Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, I think that's a safe pick.
I think Jahmyr Gibbs moving forward is the 1A back in Detroit, and maybe his red zone upside is capped because it is David Montgomery as his 1B, but the dude is explosive. And they were trusting him in the red zone towards the end of the season more than David Montgomery. So I don't mind taking Jahmyr Gibbs at high. I mean, between him and Kyren Williams, they probably make up the other 2 running backs in the top 5 in your drafts this upcoming season.
For sure. And coming back to me, we see Sam Laporta, Garrett Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Puka Nacua, Travis Etienne. Like we said, it's a little quarterback heavy, a little wonky on the board right now. So this won't be necessarily how all your redrafts look, but I think it's given, enough of a similar vibe that we can kind of really dissect it. Next on the board for me, I'm not looking at Jalen Hurts. Don't want a quarterback here, but then we got Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Jonathan Taylor, Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman. Even looking down, Kyron's still there. Devon Achane, DJ Moore is someone that I like. This is a tough one for me. Right, because I love Brandon Ayuk, but we saw it this year. You still got Debo, you still got Kittle. Can they repeat having 4 guys go for 1,000+ scrimmage yards again? Jalen Waddle, we saw the ups and downs with this year. I like Jonathan Taylor a lot. I'm going to be honest, but I don't know if I want to start 2 running backs, to start my draft, and especially with Anthony Richardson also going to be back next year. So yeah, there's a lot going through my head right now. And honestly, I don't really know what direction I want to go. I am feeling a little stumped. I think I am going to reach down the board a little bit here.
You want to trade me your pick? We can make that happen.
Well, let me hear your thoughts quick. What do you think in this situation? Who do you like right here?
at this point, Kyron Williams is probably the next guy for me, right? Is a top 5 running back going into drafts next season. In my book, again, we're talking about this in the middle of February, so things can change. That would be my guy. Jonathan Taylor is up there as well. If you're looking for pass catchers, I don't mind DJ Moore in this spot under the assumption that Caleb Williams going to Chicago. So it's probably between those 3 guys.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I am. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it safe from the running back position. Go Jonathan Taylor and try to game the board a little bit and hope I get DJ Moore on the comeback. So we take Jonathan Taylor, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Waddle, Nico Collins, Brandon Ayuk, Kyron Williams, Joe Burrow, Devonta Smith, and Michael Pittman go off the board. So I am lucky enough, and like I said, I am going to take DJ Moore here. I do need it. I feel like you can't go more than 3 rounds without starting to build out your wide receiver room, especially in the way the NFL is going right now. I feel a little nervous, starting in the 3rd round, taking 2 running backs early. So I am going to go DJ Moore, especially like you said, if Justin Fields stays, he was great this year already, right? What wide receiver was he 6 or 8? What top 8 wide receiver for sure? I know this next season, Caleb Williams probably only going to throw the ball more than Justin Fields did, even if he, and I don't think he's going to be much worse than a 60% completion percentage. So I think DJ Moore is a pretty safe pick. Devon Achane, Trey McBride, Drake London, Mark Andrews, and Kenneth Walker go off the board next. Ty, what are you thinking here? Are you going to dip into the quarterbacks or thinking not quite yet, not in the 3rd round?
Look, I love me some Anthony Richardson. Okay. I love me some Anthony Richardson, but in a redraft, right? Because that's how we're drafting in the 3rd round. That's a no-go. That is a no-go. And that really should be a no-go for all but 2 quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks. So we're not going to be looking at quarterbacks. I kind of look at running backs at this moment. James Cook, Isaiah Pacheco, Rashad White are probably the next big names before we really hit this range of running backs that are either aging, pending free agents, or not the most running back friendly teams, maybe is the best way to say it. So part of me says, okay, I need another running back, but I don't really know if I want to take a running back right now and maybe wait for the turn. So then I look at wide receivers and I see Tank Dell, I see DK Metcalf, I see T Higgins, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Rashee Rice. But I think I already know who I want in my head. I'm not really the biggest. There's Diggs. There's Deebo Samuel. Oh, man. This is tough.
I do feel like the middle wide receiver, right? I mean, once you get past, honestly, once you get past A.J. Brown, it's all of these guys are, I feel like there's a wide receiver 7 to like 25 is such a big gap where these guys could go anywhere within that range. And, like Nico Collins feels way too high for me going in the 2nd round.
Yep.
But at the same time, him finishing as a wide receiver 9 is not out of the realm of possibilities. So it's just the ebbs and flows of it are pretty crazy to me right now.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm looking at the board and there have been 15 wide receivers taken already, right? So we're talking about the wide receiver 16, give or take a couple spots, depending on who reaches and who doesn't, right? Who in that list of players that I mentioned makes the most sense as a wide receiver 16? There's only 2 players on my mind at this current moment. It's Rashee Rice and Deebo Samuel. And at this point, it's really a matter of who do I prefer? Because both are great offenses. We literally just saw both teams in the Super Bowl. And it's mainly a matter of who's going to be more consistent or who's going to give me the higher ceiling weeks. And to be honest, with Tyreek and Jahmyr Gibbs, we've spent way too much time on this pick already. I'm now just realizing, holy cow. I'm going to go Deebo Samuel.
Well, I think your guy might still be there on your next pick if you want to go there.
I know, do a double dip. But Brandon Ayuk is got some day of recording. There have been some weird social media things with Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco. If he leaves, it is all Deebo Samuel and George Kittle then. I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting with Ayuk, like you said, because he's going into the last year of his contract this year. Purdy's gonna be in year 3 next year, and they're gonna have to pay him a little more than $800,000 after that if they if they want to keep him around.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's gonna feel hard to have Deebo paid, CMC paid, Kittle paid, Ayuk and Brock Purdy all being paid. Plus, I mean, you got Bosa on the defensive side too. So I mean, they got a lot of big names. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to watch what happens with Brandon Ayuk.
4th round pick now after Justin Herbert and DK Metcalf went off the board next. And man, Rashee Rice is really tempting. But at the same time, I got to look at the board and say, man, I'm not going to get another running back before my next pick that I actually like as my running back 2. And as disappointing as that is, that's just how it's going to. That's just where I find myself right now. And these running backs, it really comes down to James Cook and Isaiah Pacheco. I don't mind Rashad White. Liam Cohen, I think is his name, is the new Bucs offensive coordinator because Dave Canales is now in Carolina. So I'm kind of worried that there's maybe a step back in the offense in terms of how productive they are, especially with Mike Evans as a free agent. It sounds like Baker's coming back, but if Mike Evans doesn't come back, it's a very different offense. And we saw James Cook and how well he did when Joe Brady stepped in as offensive coordinator. As much as I like my boy Isaiah Pacheco, I'm going to go James Cook. Dude was getting an absurd amount of touches towards the later half of the season. So I'm going to grab my second running back in James Cook. And now I'm really, really content with Jahmyr Gibbs and James Cook.
For sure. And, I agree. I understand it's the new wave in fantasy football to build wide receivers, right? The later round running backs. I rarely feel comfortable with a team if I don't have 2 running backs that I feel like I can count on. If I'm switching between the Chuba Hubbards of the world and like Tariq Cohen each week as my running back 2, I understand that maybe you can, piece together teams other ways, but I feel so much more confident kind of taking that shot on a later wide receiver than a running back. You talked about him. He's still on the board. It's Rashee Rice. That I feel like that's an obvious pick for me. So I'm going to take Rashee Rice here. Obviously, a lot of quarterbacks on the board. Anthony Richardson goes there. Trevor Lawrence goes next. But there's only one other team besides each of us that don't have a quarterback. I love Kyler Murray this year. I think he's a great value. Obviously, he's going to be the quarterback 9. But I'm not looking quarterback knowing that, hey, you know what? Nobody else is really going to be looking that way. I'd, rather fill up my team elsewhere. I don't know if I feel the need to go 3 running backs.
Yep.
Although I do see Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley. I think Saquon could still have a fantastic season. Wide receivers, I'm looking at Devontae Adams, George Pickens, Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp. Love that. And then the other guy on the board still is Travis Kelce. So it's, for me right now, it's really between Cooper Kupp or Travis Kelce. Which way do I want to go with it? And you know what? I'm going to be honest. I think I'm going to lean Travis Kelce. I think the fact he was so disappointing this season, I understand Cooper Kupp's fantastic. I understand that, but Cooper Kupp wasn't amazing this year. He wasn't. I'm going to be honest. I still think he's going to make me eat my words just because I said that. So we should clip it because he's going to be a top 3 wide receiver this year now. Like the fact that those words just came out of my mouth 100% means he's going to be. But I think Travis Kelce is still in consideration for being that number 1 tight end. So I'm going to take Travis Kelce here.
I'm surprised that you're going Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce.
You know what? I don't even care. Just take best
No.
Next goes Kyler Murray, Saquon Barkley. George Pickens, Josh Jacobs, and Devontae Adams. Ty, to you. Got some veteran wide receivers on the board. A couple of quarterbacks. What are you thinking here?
Well, great question. Very insightful question, I should say. Man, this one's tough. I'm looking receiver. Not really comfortable with a quarterback at this spot in the 5th round with who's on the board. So then it leaves me with wide receivers. And I'm looking at a guy that it's tough to get a read on him because new head coach, new offensive scheme with a new offensive play caller, going into age 32 season, I believe it is. Talking about Keenan Allen.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that has been so consistent for so long. Is it him that I trust over Mike Evans and Cooper Kupp in terms of just an aging wide receiver? Because at this point, those are the best players on the board, right?
For sure.
Thing is, Mike Evans and Cooper Kupp are both a year younger than Keenan Allen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I take less of the age fall off. I take less of a risk in that with Mike Evans and Cooper Kupp.
For sure.
And if I'm completely honest, that's why I'm probably going to go Cooper Kupp.
Ooh, I like it.
A fully healthy Cooper Kupp in this Rams offense that did not struggle to put up points this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Puka is there. He's going to command his. But outside of him, there is still enough for Cooper Kupp to be a solid fantasy option. So I'm going to go Cooper Kupp there.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the wide receivers available. And a guy that I know you were somewhat higher on going into this year is Christian Watts, going into last year's Christian Watson. He's right there. You know, with what we saw from Jordan Love this year, if he can stay healthy, are you interested in Christian Watson at all in this spot?
Probably not in the 6th round because it's not exactly his wide receiver room anymore. Like, it's not just him. Jaden Reed had a great year.
Yep.
They are very high on Dontavian Wicks. Let's not forget about Romeo Dobbs either. So in terms of, again, from an athletic standpoint, a talent and a potential upside perspective, I like Christian Watson still. I just don't think the path to clear wide receiver 1 role is really there anymore. I think it's really going to be well balanced. I shouldn't say well balanced, but more dispersed among the wide receivers. So it's not going to be, a Christian Watson 1, everyone else, feeding for scraps. So again, I like the potential that he has, but for a 6th round pick with everything that we learned this year, it's a little rich for me.
For sure.
So back on the clock again, Dalton Kincaid went right after Cooper Kupp, and then DeAndre Swift. Call me crazy.
You're crazy.
But
you don't like store-bought. You don't like store-bought pesto.
Yeah, I don't like store-bought pesto. I think it's actually very, very gross. I'm not ready for tight end yet. Running backs, I'm going to wait. I've got 2 good ones. I can wait. I'm going to go wide receiver.
All right.
And again, you're going to call me crazy. I'm going to go Terry McLaurin. Explain. This is purely speculation at this point. Terry is still he's getting towards the end of his prime window, right? He's 28 years old right now, but new quarterback, more than likely, in Drake May or Jaden Daniels, with a new play caller in Cliff Kingsbury, who is not afraid to just throw the ball 50 times in a game, right? I think this Washington team on offense is going to be very pass happy, pass heavy. And with clearly how they maybe it was a B enemy thing, but outside of Terry McLaurin, it's Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel is a free agent, and their tight end is Logan Thomas. There are no other pass catchers in this Washington offense outside of Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson that can legitimately pull targets. Now, for all we know, Washington could take a receiver in the second round of the draft. And then it's like, that looks really stupid of me. But as things stand right now, with probably a Drake May, with Cliff Kingsbury, I think Terry could be a sneaky good. Now that it gets into the debate, I've rambled far enough, but it gets into the debate of like how good the offense can be, right? Because at this point, I did just pass up on guys like Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen, guys who might be in better offenses than Washington. So at that point, we may just be banking on pure volume. But I think he can get it just if everything plays out right for him. I think he can get the volume. So for a guy that my wide receiver 4, I'm not worried so much about him not panning out because I've got cover with Debo, Tyreek, and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick before I talk about my pick, Mike Evans, Najee Harris, George Kittle, Chris Godwin, David Montgomery go off the board. I talked a couple times about, quarterbacks going really early in this draft. That's just kind of the way that the board's set up right now. But I do think it just shows this year, you can really punt on quarterback because quarterbacks left right now, Justin Fields, Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield was top 10. Tua's still out there. I mean, Deshaun Watson, if you're going to try and believe, Kirk Cousins, who is on fire. I mean, that's 8 or 9 other guys, that could have top 10 potential. I'm not saying they're going to be, top 3, but guys like Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Justin Fields, with the way they play, with what we saw last year, they could be top 5, quarterbacks easily. Brock Purdy was in that conversation with the team that he's on. Like, I don't know. It just feels like we should be waiting on quarterbacks. And then obviously we're going to add in Caleb Williams, Drake May, if you really want to take a shot down the road. So I do find that interesting. I'm going to keep my pick a little brief. It is because this guy you talked about, it's Amari Cooper. I have been a Amari Cooper believer for a while. I think that, he's just such a fantastic wide receiver. I think what we saw this year in Cleveland is probably, I don't see why we couldn't see it again if he stays in. I think he has one more year in Cleveland, correct?
Plenty of years. Sorry. 2 years.
2 years. Okay. So he's still in Cleveland. He's easily, it's not even close to the wide receiver 1 of that room. And he will continue to be, Nick Chubb should be back, but obviously coming off an ACL, I think Nick Chubb's going to be 28 or 29. So that should be interesting. After him goes Alvin Kamara, Tajay Spears, Deontay Johnson, Christian Watson, Christian Kirk, Brian Robinson, Joe Mixon, and Keenan Allen. But before I make my next pick, we're going to take a quick break and hear from our friends over at Underdog Fantasy.
Today's podcast episode is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, we love Underdog. It is the easiest place to play best ball formats, and they even have their own form of player props called Pick'em. You can make up to 20 times your money on a single night by correlating props together. 2 picks will triple your money, 3 will 6 times it, 4 will 10 times it, and 5 plays that all hit will multiply your entry by 20. You can even place insurance on your picks too, so if only 4 of your 5 props hit, you still get 10 times your entry. And if you use our code FELLAS when signing up, Underdog is going to double your first deposit up to $100.
And we are back with round 7 through 12. We do want to clarify. I was right. I was wrong. Amari Cooper does only have 1 more year left. We had a little miscommunication. He thought I was talking about the quarterback, Deshaun Watson, even though I wasn't. But
don't know how we got there in my brain, but we did somehow got there.
We did. Recap our teams real quick for those listening to the audio podcast. I have Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, DJ Moore, Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and Amari Cooper. So two running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a tight end. Ty has Tyreek Hill, Jahmyr Gibbs, Deebo Samuel, James Cook, Cooper Kupp, and Terry McLaurin. 2 running backs, and 4 wide receivers. A reminder, I don't know if I actually said this at the beginning. We're playing 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex positions with 4 bench spots. So yeah, that's where we're at. We're starting round 7. I'm the 5th pick, and I'm looking and I'm going, is this the time I take quarterback here? Do I try and, make my guess on one of these aging running backs? Aaron Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Austin Eckler, Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, James Conner. Do I go with these wide receivers who, honestly, I'm not too thrilled looking at, Ty? I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
On the board, Josh Downs, Calvin Ridley, Marquise Brown, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Jamison Williams, Jahan Dotson, DeAndre Hopkins, Jacoby Myers, Mike Will, Tyler Lockett. I don't love that. I don't know about you, but that feels really gross, really quick. Like it feels like Keenan Allen was the last guy, and now it's just like, oof, I don't want to touch any of these.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know what? I feel like that's a problem for future me. I'm going to go my quarterback here, and I'm going to take a guy who feels slept on every single year, and that's Dak Prescott. I don't know how he's ever outside the top 10, 12, 10 quarterbacks. He's got top 3 upside every single year, especially on this offense when he has CeeDee Lamb. But yeah, I'm going to take Dak Prescott there and push the problem down the road of which one of these wide receivers, running backs do I want to take? Off the board next, Cortland Sutton, Jalen Warren, Calvin Ridley, Javonte Williams, and Aaron Jones to you, Ty. What direction are you going here?
I will be able to play the board and grab a quarterback with my next pick.
For sure.
I've got 4 wide receivers. I can probably take a break, build up my running backs, maybe grab 1 more running back. And now I'm looking at the board, and there are 2 guys that I am 3 guys, I should say, that I'm very, very intrigued by.
Mm-hmm.
Ramondre Stevenson,
mm-hmm.
Nick Chubb, because yes, his knee injury was bad, but what if he is almost just as good as he was before he got hurt? Getting that for my running back 3. I really am risking not a whole lot since I have 2 legit running backs already. So it's high upside with little to no risk. There's my guy, Tony Pollard, man. The
struggles of fantasy analysts in February.
Right. So he's not going to be a
bell cow.
Yes, thank you. I have to think that Dallas is going to go out and sign somebody like a Derrick Henry.
And he's not under contract technically, right? He was a free.
He is a free agent also. Yes. Very good point. Very good point. I'm going to go Nick Chubb here.
All right. That's who I was going to take if you let him come back to me.
I am a big fan of Ramondre, but I think Nick Chubb is not going to go in the 7th round of your redraft leagues. But he's going to be one of the scarier picks because you just don't know what you're getting. We don't even know if he's going to be healthy for the beginning of the year. That's the other. So this is purely just, again,
upside.
Right. That's all that this is. So Nick Chubb is my 3rd running back. Then goes Hollywood Brown. Then Zach Charbonnet. Now I'm going to go quarterback. Look, I think Jordan Love can take another step forward this year. But I'm going to try to. I'm going to dive into a little fantasy strategy here and go with our handy dandy quarterback wide receiver stack. I think a lot of people, you've got Tyreek Hill, so you should go Tua. You would think. Like what? I also have Deebo Samuel. Brock Purdy is still on the board. Brock Purdy last year, quarterback 6. You can debate all you want if he's a game manager, game changer, whatever. Thing is, that doesn't matter in fantasy. He just needs to put up yards and throw some touchdowns. That's what he did this past year. So getting a Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel stack is my move there in the 8th.
Yeah, next goes Josh Downs, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson, Derrick Henry, and Wan'Dale Robinson. I was really hoping to get one of the 3 of Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson, or Derrick Henry. So that is a real bummer to see them go. Wan'Dale Robinson feels wildly early here.
Very.
That one's our first one that really feels out of left field here from Sleeper. I'm looking at the board. Nothing I love really at the wide receiver position. And so I think I'm going to go running back, and I'm going to take who's turned into Mr. Old Reliable, James Conner. I mean, the dude, every year you're feeling like we're going to be done with James Conner, and we just haven't been. I don't really think Arizona's in a position where they're going to go get, another running back, especially with James Conner on the books. I understand he could be a cap casualty. He definitely could. He could, pull the Joe Mixon from last year where he worked the contract. I think there's a lot of things up in the air, but one thing I know for certain is the dude played well last year. Like, he looked good on the field. He was one of, I think, 3 running backs with 900 yards and 5 yards per carry or something. It was something along those lines. And so he played well. I know they like him down there. He's always a touchdown threat. So I'm going to go James Conner. After that, Jake Ferguson, David Njoku, Austin Eckler, Dallas Goedert, Roshan Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, Jerome Ford, and Jordan Love. We have our first backup quarterback taken. And Tyler, I feel stuck, man. I'm looking at this board, and I want a wide receiver so badly. I do, but I don't know which way to go. My wide receivers available: Jamison Williams, Jahan Dotson, DeAndre Hopkins, Jacoby Myers, Mike Will. So here's my thing on Mike Will. I think I really want him, but at the same time, the Chargers have a very disgusting problem with old wide receivers right now on large contracts between him and Keenan Allen. I think they're due to pay the 2 of them a little under $50 million next year.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I see him keeping both, especially with Mike Will coming off an ACL. That would be, a bummer if he left. But, man, I just don't love anything else I see. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a free agent as well. But like we said, I mean, he's older. So maybe I take a chance there of hopefully he signs with a Kansas City or something. But, man, I am not loving what I see at all on this board. I'm going to, it's great. I'm going to go Mike Will and just take my guy. But I don't love it. I don't at all. We see a run of quarterbacks. So good thing you grabbed yours, because there goes Justin Fields, Tua, Jahan Dotson, Deshaun Watson, Jared Goff, and back to you, Ty. Is it time to dip into the tight end bucket?
Oh, yes, it is. And this, again, for the 9th round, this guy is not going to go in the 9th round of your drafts. He's going to go much earlier than this. It's Evan Ingram.
Yeah,
okay,
that's an easy one.
This tight end, Evan Ingram was tight end 5 first year at Jacksonville, tight end 2 this past year. That's all I need to know. So he's definitely going to go earlier than the 9th round. And as the tight end of 12? Like, he's going to go earlier than that. But you know what? I'm really liking the draft board. I'm not going to lie. So after Evan Ingram went Kirk Cousins and Jamison Williams, I am going to grab a wide receiver as well. Because, man, it gets very gross after this.
It does.
But there's a running back on the board that I really, really like. Really, really, really like.
Who would that be?
That would be Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want you to say it, but I knew it was going to be him.
And it's either Raheem Mostert or DeAndre Hopkins for me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound like DeAndre is going to force his way out of Tennessee, at least in February. But, man, Raheem Mostert. How much, I guess here's the question that I have, and I'll ask it to you. How much does Devon Achane eat into Raheem Mostert's workload next year?
Man, I don't know. But let's be honest, even if it's half, it's still worth the pick in the 10th round.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he's, even with Achane, he's in this offense, he's going to be a double-digit touchdown threat again.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm going to go Raheem Mostert. I probably didn't need a 4th running back, but the value for Raheem Mostert is probably too good to pass up.
Yeah, I definitely don't blame you there. I'm looking, and I am not liking what I'm seeing between running backs and wide receivers. Chuba Hubbard's there, right? I mean, could go that way, but do we really think, Carolina's not going to, look somewhere else to split the, carries? It's not like Hubbard was fantastic last year, right? I mean,
he was a great rushing attempts prop bet guy.
No kidding. He was. You want to talk about a volume merchant? That was him. Not in love with anything else I'm seeing. Kendre Miller is a little interesting, just because he was so good in college. Kamara's getting older, but you got to imagine with Kamara on the book still, and the cap, whatever you want to say, call it in New Orleans is going on $80 million below the cap or above the cap. So I don't see them not using Kamara.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it is just disgusting. Jacoby Myers, I'm a little interested in. Finished as a wide receiver 24 last year. Obviously wasn't great. You got to assume they're going to do something a little bit different at the quarterback position. So I think he's where I'm going to go just to add more wide receiver depth to kind of take a shot in the dark. So I'm going to go with Jacoby Myers here and just hope for the best, I guess, is kind of where I'm at. After him, Michael Wilson, Will Levis, Matthew Stafford, Romeo Dobbs, Luke Musgrave, Tyler Lockett, Gabe Davis, and Dalton Schultz go next. Ty, I'm still not happy. I think I'm going to take another shot at the wide receiver position. And you know what? This one might be dumb, but it's because I still am just holding on to faith for this guy. It's minuscule. It's minuscule. He hasn't given me much to hold on to, but it's Treylon Burks. I'm just holding out a little hope that something can happen. We know how athletically gifted he is. It's just, can he put it together on the football field? We saw it 2 years ago. He had one game against Green Bay where he belittled Mr. Jair Alexander. But other than that, we have not seen much. So he is completely a shot in the dark. Next was Dontavian Wicks, Elijah Moore, Darren Waller, Chuba Hubbard, Quentin Johnston, who I know you were just itching to take. And so, Ty, you got 2 picks left. Where are you going here?
I have a question to ask you first.
I would love to answer it.
Are rookies fair game?
I would say no, since we haven't taken a rookie.
I was like, because Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, you kidding me? I'm sitting here staring down Mike Williams and John Dotson in the 9th, and you really think I'm going to not go Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison? Give me a break. Give me a break.
I just had to ask because I didn't want to do it, and then I should have just done it just to get your reaction.
I would have lost it. I would have quit right now. It have restarted the whole episode. This one never been released.
So yeah, I'm on the board. I'm on the clock again. I'm gonna go wide receiver with both my picks just to finish up the draft.
Kayshon Boutte.
Brother, give me a break. I'm going to go with a wide receiver that could actually become the wide receiver 2 in this offense. So that gives me 2 players on this offense, just like I do with Miami and just like I do with San Francisco. But I'm going to go Khalil Shakir.
You're making fun of me for Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, and you got like just pairs up the wazoo. Are you kidding me?
I don't know what you're talking about. I never made fun of you about that.
Unbelievable.
Then Jonathan Mingo and Tucker Kraft. When afterwards, I'm on the clock again. Oh gosh. This stinks. I'm just going to go best player. I don't care about age. I shouldn't say best player. I'm going to go Zamir White.
No, you suck. There's no way you did that.
What? I just, on the chance that they don't re-sign Josh Jacobs, Zamir White is at the running back 1 in the Raiders backfield. So I'm
I can't believe you just took him from me. I would had his stats pulled up. I was going to read him off. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Let's go.
That hurts my heart.
I'm just sad the Team 7 didn't leave you Dameon Pierce to take.
Oh, that's just so disgusting. After Zamir White goes Rashad Bateman, Chase Brown, Tyler Algier, who I was actually kind of interested in as well this late, Dameon Pierce, and Mr. Ty Chandler, who knows what it could look like next year.
J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go an ancient wide receiver. You talked about the age drop off with Keenan Allen. This man hit the age drop off 3 years ago, and I'm still gonna take him because he's still the wide receiver one on this team. It's Mr. Adam Thielen. He's got enough money that they're gonna continue to use him. And so yeah, I'm taking Adam Thielen there. Finishes up the draft with Antonio Gibson, Kendre Miller, Devin Singletary, and Geno Smith. Ty, real quick, why don't you give us your team so the people on the audio can know where you are at?
In order of how I drafted, or how my roster?
However you want to give it to him.
Oh, okay. I'll just go in order. Tyreek Hill, Jahmyr Gibbs, Deebo Samuel, James Cook were my first 4 picks. So 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs. Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, Nick Chubb, next 3 picks. Then I went Brock Purdy, Evan Ingram, and finished it up with Raheem Mostert, Khalil Shakir, and Zamir White.
Yeah, and I, at the 5th pick, went to Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, DJ Moore, and Rashee Rice with my first 4. Pivoted to the tight end spot, went Travis Kelce. Then I went Amari Cooper, his former teammate, Dak Prescott, James Conner, Mike Williams, Jacoby Myers, Treylon Burks, and Mr. Adam Thielen to round it out. But yeah, that wraps it up. Our first way too early fantasy mock draft redraft. But yeah, let us know what you think of the comments. Who won? Who do you got in this? Obviously, we beat all these other guys because they're taking, people like Wan'Dale Robinson
in the
8th round. They're taking people like George Pickens in the 5th round. I'm sorry, some people's actually gonna get upset about that one.
Well, I get it. It's 5th round. It's the 5th round.
Yeah. I don't even care. CJ Stroud in the 1st.
Yeah,
but
that's the one.
But yeah, let us know who you thought won between Tyler and I. Let us know what you want to see next. I know we have on the books at least 5 mock drafts this summer. We have another Dynasty mock draft this summer. We have Dynasty content coming out starting this week, Thursday, Friday, Dynasty content next week. So we're going to be Dynasty heavy moving up till the draft. We got some NFL mock drafts coming up. But Ty, we got a lot of content coming out for you even in the off season. Because like we said before, grind don't stop, so we don't stop. And so that's where we're at. Anything else you want to add for the people before we log off?
I do not.
No. All right. Well, with that, thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast if that's where you're listening. Subscribe on YouTube. Turn on those notifications. Follow us at Fantasy Football Fellas on TikTok, the FFLs on Instagram, FFLs on Twitter, or the X, I guess. I'm at CamLawFFF on there, and he is at Tyler_Plath. Tyler, we'll see you on Thursday on the YouTube. I will see you next week. With that, deuces.
Deuces.